All right, take a seat, pour a cocktail. We're about to blow your mind. For more than 30 years, Nancy Pelosi, as you well know, has represented the single most liberal congressional district in America. And she's always seemed perfectly suited for the job. Name the issue, no matter what it is, from abortion to climate change to affirmative action. And Nancy Pelosi has the party-approved doctrinaire left position on that issue. She's a walking liberal stereotype. Or so we thought. In fact, it was all a pose. It was a sham identity designed to cloak a darker reality beneath. You thought Nancy Pelosi was a guilty white liberal who regularly sends money to the annual NPR pledge drive, didn't you? No. In fact, Pelosi is a committed racist, a hardened bigot. She'd be running the Ladies Klan Auxiliary if they had one in San Francisco. Kind of shocking, actually. How do we know this? Simple. Watch the way Nancy Pelosi dismisses fellow Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
She likes to minimize the conflicts within her caucus between the moderates and the progressives. You have these wings, AOC and her group on one side.
It's like 5 people.
It's like 5 people. Actually, it's 4 people. But of course, a racist would get the number wrong. Pelosi was referring to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, or, as Pelosi doubtless thinks of them, the 4 morons of the apocalypse. Pelosi does not like them. She's made that clear. And Ocasio-Cortez, having thought about it a lot, thinks she knows why. In a recent interview with the Washington Post, Ocasio-Cortez accused Pelosi of, quote, singling out newly elected women of color. Get it? Yeah. Pressed to explain herself later, Ocasio-Cortez noted that Pelosi has attacked these women of color despite, quote, knowing the amount of death threats that we get. I think it's just worth asking why. Yeah, okay. Well, that's a rhetorical question, obviously. She knows why. Why else would you imperil someone's safety? Well, because you wish them harm. Because you're a crazed bigot. According to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that's who's running the Democratic Party right now. Quick, someone alert Al Sharpton in the Civil Rights Division at DOJ. We've got a racist third in line to the presidency. Maybe we're being too literal about this. What are the odds in real life that Ocasio-Cortez actually believes that Nancy Pelosi is a racist? Or that Joe Biden is a racist? Or for that matter, that Donald Trump is a racist? What are the chances she really thinks that? Probably about 0. The first thing to know about the cries of racism you hear incessantly from the left, they are totally insincere. No one saying it actually believes it. The point isn't to get rid of racism. The point is to seize power. And it works. Denouncing someone as racist is a kind of rhetorical stun grenade. For a moment, the accused just stands there, off balance and looking bewildered. That's when you scoop up the loot and run. Grievance politics is a kind of smash and grab operation, and it's highly effective. It's no surprise that the left now justifies its entire political program in the name of fighting bigotry. America has been accused of racism, therefore we must, picket, give up our guns, empty our prisons, legalize drugs, give up the First Amendment, pay for someone else's abortion, tear down our borders. And by the way, we're not allowed to ask about citizenship on our census form because racism. See how it works? Yeah. The question is, how did Nancy Pelosi fall for this? She's been working this scam so long herself, you'd think she would have seen it coming, but apparently she didn't. Heather McDonald is the author of The Diversity Delusion, and she joins us tonight. Heather, nice to see you tonight. Are you surprised, having followed this whole line of argument for so many years and so closely, are you surprised that Pelosi and Biden, for that matter, are both being denounced as racist right now?
No, it's hilarious, Tucker. I mean, let's take a moment to just savor this moment when the left turns on itself. Yeah, the left turns on itself, wielding the exact weapons that it wields against everybody else and accuses itself of racism. It's preposterous. But it's also a serious matter. I disagree slightly with you to say that people don't believe this. I think what we're witnessing is the most dangerous import from the academy into the real world. Students are taught from the moment they arrive on campus 2 things and 2 things only reliably, which is that the most important thing about themselves is their group identity, defined reductively by gonads and melanin, and that racism and sexism based on those characteristics are the defining features of American society. Taught to believe that when they face any kind of disagreement, they reflexively accuse their ideological opponent of bigotry and hate. And that works wonderfully on a college campus. You accuse a president of racism, He immediately crumples and orders another $1 million in diversity bureaucracy. You accuse a corporation of racism, and it folds, as we saw with Nike and the preposterous claim that the Betsy Ross flag is racist. It works with politicians, with Biden repudiating his justified support for the '94 federal crime bill that saved thousands of minority lives. The question is it going to work on the rest of us? And if it does, Tucker, civil society is over, because this is a totalitarian power play. It is an attempt to shut down any kind of dialectical search for truth and to occupy the sole allowable ideological ground. And that's a recipe for a society to halt dead in its tracks and go in reverse.
Because it's not really an argument. I mean, no one's making the case. And by the way, this eliminates the need to make the case. You don't actually have to convince anybody of anything. If you're doing it to fight racism, it's a moral imperative, and everyone else can just shut up and obey.
You know, there's been political disagreements long before identity politics. People disagree. That is what America is about, that we have the right, we have the freedom to debate our opinions. The alternative to debate is violence. Yeah. It is an act of narcissism to think that everything is about yourself, to immediately say, well, it must be because of my gender and race that I'm being disagreed with, and you must be a bigot to disagree with me. No, that is not the case. These are issues that deserve to be threshed out in the public forum. And again, if they are not, we are approaching a totalitarian state very quickly.
And so this is a much longer conversation, but in the short time, 30 seconds that we have, would you recommend what course of action for normal people? Ignore these slurs for the kind of cynical politics that they are? Or how should your average person fight back against this totalitarianism?
Well, the average person has to simply reject the racism charge. All of us have to start working on alternative explanations for our reality. Racism is no longer the predominant characteristic of America, if it ever was. It was a part of it. It was never the defining feature, but it certainly is not. This still remains a land of opportunity. The alternative explanation is that there are profound behavioral differences, choices that individuals make that determine social outcomes. We have to fight back against this narrative, Tucker, because if they win, we lose our civilization, we lose meritocracy, and we lose freedom.